you plan on staying in 2714 because it's friends, that's what brought you back, then that kind of
Yeah.
all goes out the window. Okay. Um, Now, as far as your equipment, well, let's actually go over the commanders first. Okay. So sounds like this guy really, really like infantry,
Yeah.
right? And I think I don't think you should go for 3 infantry marches. Okay. The analogy I like to give for commanders, right, and especially because you don't have equipment for the third march right now, but have you ever been on like a lazy river or something?
Yeah.
Right, you're on a tube and you're just kind of floating around in a circle, right? If you jump in and you float down, it's really easy. But if you jump into the lazy river and you try to swim upstream, it's a lot of effort to not move nearly as fast or as efficiently. Right, the
Yeah.
commander cycle is kind of like that. So this game is essentially all about opportunity costs, right? So it's not so much whether something's good, right? Because it's more okay. How is the upgrade from say the purple pants, Grok's humility, to the legendary pants, right? How much does it cost versus how much are you gaining? And when you're talking about the third march for infantry, since you already do technically have a archer march and a cav march, right? You're comparing whether you're doing a third march for infantry at the expense of a second cav or second archer march. Right now, statistically, just because power creep, right, in every generation a commander comes out, and I think on average they're coming out like about every 10, somewhere between 10 and 11 months right now. Uh, if you have the third march, you're going to be trying to pair commanders that are about like 10 11 months to about like almost 2 years older than if you were trying to do the second march of another troop type.
Mhm.
Right, so short term, like it might make sense. Hey, this will allow me to get 5 marches on the field. But if you go that route, medium and long term, you're actually going to set your account back a lot more. Right?
By the way, for the fifth march, that would be a third infantry. I was not planning on doing any legendary gear.
Yeah.
I was just gonna do like purple and blue, like really cheap, and then dismantle it and make it into either a second archer or a second cav eventually.
So 2714 is already in SOC. Um,
Yep.
if you do that, in my opinion, minimum you at least need the legendary. So you need the Hope Cloak, and then the set helm for infantry for it to be like competitive and sought, right? Because the purple helm and the chest both give you attack. I think it's like the Quinn Soul and Witch's Lineage. Is that what it's called?
I
And
was not gonna go. I was gonna go for blue. There's
okay,
blue health
yeah.
for
So
those.
now you're not only are you taking the third best pair for your infantry, but then you're also putting a subpar march out like equipment out there.
Yeah.
Like um it's true that if you have another march, you're going to get a little bit more output, right? But the efficiency is going to go down dramatically. So that kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, right? If your efficiency goes down per unit of output, right? In this case, I think like kills or sublooms dealt or deads, whatever. The amount of speeds and resources you're going to have to spend to get that goes up dramatically,
Mhm.
right? So I know people that are pulling like 2.5 bill KP with 4 marches. Like you don't need it to do a lot of output. I just don't think it's worth it. Right
Okay.
now, if the guy and he actually did you a favor, right? Because if he actually has like another like legendary set of infantry, it would make sense. It would be harder to like move off of that. But since you don't have the equipment, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Okay, like it's when it comes to the commanders, my suggestion for you, right? Like it's I think it's pretty obvious looking at your commanders which march is the weakest,
Yeah, the
right?
cav for
Yeah,
sure.
okay, right. So I don't. I mean, if you watch any of my videos, you probably know I'm like a William lover. I think he's severely, severely underrated. It's interesting because with infantry, I think there's Luce, that's just the best commander in the game, like not even close, right? And
Mhm.
then the next tier down is Scipio, Maybe Gorgo, maybe.
Yeah.
But she only pairs well with Lucia. Like people have tried her with anyone else, it just doesn't work, right? But whereas Lucia can almost pair with anyone, it works great. Like I've seen people recommend Lucia with Epic Joan, and somehow it's like still doing pretty well in the way. It's wild, right? But it's Lucia, Scipio, and then you have like Sargon, you have like Guan, you have Tariq, Gorgo, maybe kind of in between the Scipio tier and the third tier. You have a bunch of commanders there, right?
Yep.
I think there's a very real chance when the next infantry comes out, the second best infantry pair might be better than the best cav pair. Okay, because right now probably the best cav pair is Nevsky and Joan, right? And it's old,
Okay.
but it's just the best that they could do, right? They're pretty balanced, right? If you want to get to 2 or 3 marches, but the very top end, it's a little bit behind. Whereas like Scipio, in my opinion, is already better than Nevsky or Joan, right? If you even have someone that's like on the level of Belisarius that could pair well with Scipio, who could really pair well with anyone, uh, that march will probably be better than Nevsky Joan, right? And Ziel Herman is probably the second best march, but since you already have all these commanders, right? Usually I would just recommend if you don't have Gorgo, just go with Alex, right? Then it'll just be Lucha Alex, and then probably the new Imp commander with Scipio. But unless this new Imp commander really flops, like really flops, uh, you're actually kind of set. Like I think if you have 3 and then you want to go for the 4th march, I would actually go for infantry for the 2nd march. That has not been the case this whole time I've been playing, but everything is almost set up, provided that the new infantry commander is in a complete flop, where infantry is going to be like the strongest troop type for probably about a year.
Mhm.
Okay, so right now you have 900 gold heads, right?
Yep.
At your spend, I'm gonna guess probably about like 200 gold heads, depending on how active you are with all the events and everything. Let's just say 200, probably on the lower side, but 200 gold heads a month. I think it's actually worth it for you to get Nevsky to 5551, and then kind of save the rest and wait until the new infantry commander comes out. We should actually be hearing about him relatively soon. I
Yeah.
saw Ahara, who I'll defer to as like she's like an expert to figure this out. Basically, she has like an average time between commander cycles. She's Malaysian, speaks Mandarin Chinese, so she's familiar with the Chinese server. Um, Her prediction is that mid-July, I think July 15th or something, was when the infantry MGE and the Chinese server comes out, and the way Lilith has been doing the last few commanders, they actually time it with the Chinese server's MGE. And then what will probably happen is that you get the new infantry commander 2 weeks later in late July, so like July 29th, for the
Okay.
infantry commander, right? So you have a little over a month, right? So you have a little over a month to get about like 200 gold heads, and then I don't know if you have gems saved up or something. Maybe you spend it for a cycle. Maybe it's not like maybe this isn't a commander you don't have to like instant max, right? But like I think it is actually worth it, just because like a 5551 Saladin William is just like that's where the biggest opportunity to improve is, right? So like
Yeah.
dropping like
And so
three
I'd be using Nevsky William.
Nevsky William 5551, and then that's just something like, since you're not buying dailies, that's something that you can kind of decide what to do, right? Because there's like these different random events where you can kind of start slowly get gold heads for him, but it's not so much that his expertise is really good, like that good, but all 4 of Nevsky's skills are really good.
Mhm.
Right? So it's worth actually getting all 4 skills max. I think his 4th skill is the one where you get a bunch of skill damage, right? But even like a 5551 is probably 2 tiers better than a Saladin with a relic. Like
Okay.
he's that much better, right? So for like 360 gold heads, whatever, right? Like to actually make that upgrade, it's worth it. And then you'll still kind of
Mhm.
have the flexibility to be close enough to do the inf in a little over a month. Okay, like short term, that's where I would go. Honestly, with your spend level, I think you should probably stay at 4 marches for a while until you're like kind of ahead on gold heads, right? Like your equipment's actually pretty decent. We could talk about like the micro optimizations, right? There's stuff that I would have done differently. Good news for you is you didn't do all this, right? but
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say
but
I
like
obviously I
but really it's not so much like, oh, if you craft the dragon's breath legs, right? Like it's that much worse. Maybe you're talking about like 3 to 5% at most, probably less. It's more if something is 3 to 5% better, and then someone made that choice, uh, they're either just lack a like a fundamental understanding of this game, or just they're just kind you know what I mean? Like it's more like it's a reflection of the decision making, not so much like if you have the dragon's breath pants, right? Where if you
yeah.
have the infantry pants, like your account's fucked. It's not. That's not the case.